Jennifer Teft and the Strange want to party with you on June 14th at Fireseed Art Studio in Framingham, Massachusetts to celebrate their debut album, Strange Beginnings. Also sharing the Fireseed Art stage, Lovina Falls and Little Boy Lost. Be in the Dirty Ham June 14th at Fireseed Art Studio for Jennifer Teft and the Strange record release show. Doors are at 7 p.m. Hey guys, Trev from the Struggling Artist Podcast, and I want to talk to you real quick about Struggling Artist Record Club. The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hey everybody, today our guest is Tobin and Kyle of Flatfoot 56. It was an honor to talk with these guys. I've been a fan of them for over 20 years. Stick around to the end of the episode to hear a song from Flatfoot 56 off of their latest, which was a split with the Rumjacks. This is episode 261 of the Struggling Artist Podcast, Struggling with Flatfoot 56. Tobin, Kyle, thanks for coming on the podcast. This is pretty cool for me. I've been following your music probably since Knuckles Up came out. I think that's when I first was introduced to your music. It happened to be through Pandora. I don't even know if that's still a thing anymore. But yeah, you guys were in a algorithm like playlist thing that I had for like. It was actually more for like Boston punk rock than anything, but you know, the Dropkick Murphys is such a force. Like it brought in stuff from all over that would sound like that as well. But you guys always stuck out to me as far as like Celtic punk and Celtic rock and I don't know. So today I did a deep dive back in because I hadn't listened to like Knuckles Up or Jungle of the Midwest Sea in a while, and like I think one of the big things I learned was. And I don't know if this was by design or just how it came together as a band, but in every song, there's at least one instrument that just stands out. And there's multiple instruments throughout songs like that do it too. But like when you first start listening to Knuckles Up, just the drums that kick off are just so like intense and they're like so prominent right there. It grabs your attention like instantly, you know what I mean? And like, and throughout, like I said, throughout that album, in all your albums. Like there's always like, I don't know if like it's like, all right, this is gonna be like the drum song. You know what I mean? I don't know how that works. I'm not a songwriter, but like it's just like, it just always like, you guys always just kind of stood out to me. And like I think you guys had like the sickest mandolin I had ever heard to date, especially on that album. I wish I remember the song. There's the one song where it's like kicks off with the mandolin and it's like the fastest freaking playing I've ever heard. It was insane.
Yeah, I think that's Knuckles Up.
Yes,
I believe.
yeah,
It's probably Knuckles Up. Yes.
Yeah. So you guys have always, like I said, you guys laid a mark with me real quick. Like, from the moment I discovered you guys, and yeah. So I mean, like I said, I've been following around for a while, and I'm excited I have a chance to talk with you guys about just like your process and like how the band got together and all that stuff.
Brother, man. Yeah. No, what's funny is that song you brought up. That's actually the first song he ever wrote on the mandolin. We bought a mandolin at a Kentucky. Was it in Kentucky? We were touring through Kentucky.
Yeah, it was a Kentucky flea market. We were on tour.
He got in the van, and within 5 minutes of having the thing, the first thing he pops out and starts doing, Josh, our mandolin player and piper, is Knuckles Up, and we're just like, that's great. Let's do this. It was just really, and we had been a band by that time. It was like 3 or 4 years, and we hadn't incorporated mandolin at all. But we were like, let's pick one of these up and see if we can make it work. And he took off with it,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you guys started like right around 2000?
Yeah, we the three brothers. We had our first. We played together. I don't even know if we had our band name yet in 2000, October, I want to say, of 2000. And then our piper came along, Josh, who was a lifelong friend of ours. He really wanted to play bagpipes with us. And we were like, let's try making this work. And we had no idea actually about any bands at that time that were playing punk rock with bagpipes at all. We were very oblivious to a lot of it when it was like early on because we were so young. And our first show, I consider it's like, March of 2001. So it's like 2000, 2001. It's like, that's that crossover is basically when we started.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now you guys are out of Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now
the city.
Tell me, so Chicago is like one of my favorite places for music right now, and has been for years. But like, what was it like back at that time? Was there a lot going on? Was there, you know what I mean?
Well, at the time that we started, we were kids. Kyle was 12. I was 17. There wasn't a lot of places to play. There was one place called Mojo's that you could play on the south side that was down in Orland Park, one of the south suburbs. But you couldn't find many places that would actually allow you to play.
Rubes is another one.
Yeah, Rubes was kind of like this. Yeah, it was a punk. It was a place. The guy who owned it ran about 3 strip clubs on the south side. Super creepy. He'd sell beer out of a cooler to underage kids, and then I think on the weekends he'd have strippers on the stage. You know what I mean? It was like this really. It was a scummy place. And it was the kind of place that all your punk rock friends would come to, and like gangbangers would drive by because the neighborhood was super rough, and they'd be like looking at all these kids with mohawks and stuff, and they're like, this is just a real, but it was the place that we could play, and there was no rules. And so a lot of the good shows would happen there, and they would have a lot of different bands. But yeah, no, it was definitely, it got shut down. He got busted for some illegal stuff eventually. And we all had to go find other places to play, but for a long time, we all played there.
Mm-hmm. And this was like what, late 90s, early 2000s then at that time too, or?
Yeah, it was all early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Yeah. They probably shut down in 2005-ish, maybe. Or was it a little bit later? I don't know. So you remember the date there? I don't know.
We stopped playing it towards the end. I think I think this is about 2003, 2004 would have been around the times that we were playing there, and it shut down around that time. So, yeah, we got one offer to go in to do a matinee show at like the Bottom Lounge in Chicago. It was a Monday night show, and we got our big chance to go play one of our favorite smaller clubs, and we went in there with another Celtic band and destroyed it with them, and it was really fun, and it kind of opened up the door for us to start playing in the city. But it took a while to crack the scene a bit, you know.
No, yeah, so. I'm sure, yeah. and so like around that time, like what were like the bands, like what were your guys' favorite bands from the city around then?
Our friends at Tossers were probably pretty huge. They were on Thick Records at the time. We were going to see them pretty religiously, and obviously,
there was some smaller bands.
Baker was a cool local punk band we used to go see a lot that we liked at the Fireside Bowl. Man, there's like a lot, and we grew up playing with this band called the Street Brats. We used to play with them all the time. They were really cool. They were really influential with us. And another Oi band called Fierce City that we grew up with, and they started playing shows. We started playing shows together. Chicago, it was really divided at that time with crews and scenes, and we were kind of like one of the odd bands. We were friends with all the different main bands that were the crew for in the city, so we were always the band that played both the shows with both the bands, and we were just like, you know, it was like Skinhead Cruise, there was Punk Cruise, and then there was some drama with other different scenes, and we ended up playing a lot of psychobilly shows, and we were just like kind of like the uniter band between all of them, kind of, I guess you can say. And then also just, yeah, it was, but yeah, it was definitely bands that we really liked, and we go to shows a lot in those early days was probably the, like, for local was Tossers, Shot Baker.
There was an old band called Belfast Car Bomb that we were big fans of that would play with us early on, and they would go on to play in other bands later on. But bands like the Massacres were a psychobilly band in Chicago that were doing a lot at the time. Deals Gone Bad was kind of a staple.
Yeah, those are your boys right there. Yeah.
And they were more of like a reggae band. We were really good friends with them and loved those guys. And so yeah, there was just a lot of smaller Celtic bands. There was an old band called Fisticuffs, and then there was the Closet Squatters. You know, it was kind of like this era of like Celtic punk bands were around in Chicago, but not a ton. The Sharky Doyles, I haven't said that name in a long time, but we all knew each other. But we would go see a lot of UK punk bands. That was kind of like what we loved, was going to see the Business, going to see the UK Subs, going to see shows like that, and then a lot of like more of the Oi world, like the Brass Knuckle Boys or things like that. So there's kind of like this Oi punk and roll world that we kind of got ourselves immersed in, and love that music, love that style. Some of these names are so old. It's coming back to my memory now, but a lot of these guys haven't been around in a long time. But like hearing about bands like 88 Fingers Louie, you know, in the early days, and being like, okay, these are the bands. We had an older sister that would come out to shows and go see like Mustard Bug Plug play, or 88 Fingers Louie, or the Smoking Popes, or bands like that. And they were all just like, you know, they were just so much older than us and so much more established. And now we're friends with those guys, and it's really cool to know them a part of the scene. It just we were kind of a slow burn grow as time went on, you know, and we kind of came around during a time when punk rock was not necessarily the thing. It was more turning into like
the new metal era. Yeah, that new metal era. Yeah. So like it's funny you say that, because like just how like you guys had a slow moving, but it sounds like, I mean, you guys started super young. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so
we sucked.
I mean, for the early years, yeah, it's bad. But.
So I mean, I don't know, like so like a lot of those bands you were mentioning, like I've heard of some of those obviously, but like, you know, it was tough. Like, so I grew up in Rhode Island, and like I gravitated, like there was not a lot going on. There was some in Providence, and like in Connecticut, there was some that was going towards like that New York hardcore scene going on. And like I kind of floated towards like the Boston like street punk thing they were doing out there, like everything that was going on out there. And
like the Pinkerton Thugs and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Ducky Boys, the Pinkerton Thugs, the Welch Boys, you know. So like it for me, like and then like I said, when I had Pandora, and like I started hearing all these different bands now, and I was like, oh, from all over the place, which was awesome. Like, you know, and you guys in the Tossers were were probably the first like Chicago bands I was really introduced to at that point. You know what I mean? So, and again, like for as far as like Celtic punk or Celtic rock or whatever, like you guys definitely stand out than most of the other ones too. And I don't know if it's like the style of, I don't know much about bagpipes, right? I know they make sounds and they make pretty cool sounds, but like, I don't know if like your style, like the style you guys bring is different than like what an Irish punk band would bring. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if like, you know,
yeah.
Cause if you listen like even like AC/DC's pipes don't sound anything like any of these bands that I listen to either. You know what I mean? So
I think with us, when it came to the pipes, you know, we didn't hear the Dropkick Murphys and say, hey, we want to start a band.
Yeah.
We heard about the Dropkick Murphys later on when people were like, hey, you guys have bagpipes, you should check out the Dropkick Murphys. And we'd be like, okay, well, let's check it out. And they were a part of that journey, but not we got more, we were into Irish traditional music, more, not traditional, but more, you know, the Dubliners and the Clancy brothers and things like that. Our parents were really big bluegrass people, so we really loved the folk side of things. As far as the pipes were concerned, I think, and Kyle, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but a band that was way more influential when it came to piping, like the actual pipe, like our piper was a massive Real Mackenzie's fan. Like he thought, and to me, to this day, out of all the bands with bagpipes, there's no band that comes even close to the quality that the Real Mackenzie's bring to the table as far as the Celtic punk scene in the world. Like they've just always been, they're just great. They do it well, and they've always done it well. So that was kind of as far as the bagpipes specifically. But with us, it was way more, we're a punk band with bagpipes and instrumentation. We're not a bunch of Irish guys coming up here and just not yarding it up, but like we're a punk band first and foremost. And we really have a love for this world, but we also come from the same town as the Tossers, who have been doing it longer than most everybody in America, you know? So it's like, you know, they're doing that very well. We're going to do our niche of our own and do what we do. And, you know, and we grew up listening to those guys, and they're kind of, you know, they're the world we were in. They were a part of, they were swimming in the same waters, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it was,
so with the Dropkick Murphys, like they were in New England. That's how you know what I'm saying? Like back then they weren't what they are now. Like they weren't the force that they are now with like playing, you know, stadiums and stuff like that. So like I remember going to the smaller clubs to see them, and then like and again it was something new for us. Like it was like, oh, this band's got bagpipes. You know what I mean? Like let's check that out. Like that's what is that thing? That's a tin whistle. Oh, okay, cool. They're making cool sounds with that. You know, I've always been someone who loves like different sounds. Like I'm also a huge huge like dance hall reggae fan because of like all the horns and stuff that goes along with that. And like I've always been able to like, you know, I don't know, I just like it. Like one of my favorite bands, they're called All Deep Ends. It's one word, and they have a banjo player that makes that thing makes sounds I had, much like the mandolin and like Knuckles Up, like no idea that thing could make the sounds that it makes, you know. You know what I mean? So it's why actually my favorite band in Boston, they have a clarinet player, and they run it through pedals, and it's insane what they can do.
What's their name?
Coffin Salesman. They're like Coffin. They're my favorite right now. They're good friends of mine. Like I'm blown away by their music.
I'm gonna write these down.
No doubt.
I mean, it's you're talking my language. I mean, there was an old band that Kyle and I used to love that we played with years ago that basically did more of the reggae style with a Celtic kind of vibe to it.
Ooh, okay.
Called the Kodiaks.
I'm writing that.
If you can find their stuff, it's online, right, Kyle? I've looked for it.
Yeah, they got some stuff online. They're a very interesting mix. We played a show with them, and very rarely I get turned off by somebody who tells me what they sound like when they mention bands like, we sound like the Specials if Shane McGowan was the singer. And I was like, all right.
And had a banjo in there with the Specials in LA.
Well, it's also like, that is, that is royalty that you're mixing together, right? And I just was like, I don't know how they're gonna do this. I don't know if I should even give this a shot because it's like you're almost speaking blasphemy. But yeah, they basically had that sound. They have like they have a couple tracks that really are great tracks, and yeah, they were a unique band. So, and especially coming out of a town like Louisville, Kentucky, it was kind of cool because it's obviously that was a no-go zone for a lot of bands for a long time. So, but there's a lot of bands. There's a lot of our friends throughout the years, bands like the Killigans from Omaha or Lincoln, Nebraska, and just small Midwest towns that were doing some cool stuff that was really just kind of hidden because obviously where they're at in the country and obviously not able to get out, and tour as much, so.
Now, do you guys play with any Chicago bands now, like local bands that are out there? Like, so like I'm a huge fan of like, Blind Atom in the Federal League, Canadian Rifle, like these bands that I absolutely love these bands. Radar Waves. Radar Waves is another one. Charlie Thornton, he's like the kid's sick. Yeah, so like do you guys get to play with these guys at all, or is it I don't know how this works, like, you know what I mean? For me,
yeah, Chicago's huge, man, and there's so many little different cliques too. But yeah, Blind Atom, all those guys. Actually, our drummer used to play in Blind Atom for a while, so Dan Alfonsi, and then the Canadian Rifle guys have been holding down forever, and those guys are rad. Like I know them mostly from shows. We really haven't played together. It's kind of surprising we haven't played together. I don't think we've ever played a show together with Canadian Rifle nowadays.
Yeah, we played an acoustic show with Blind Atom years ago. There's a band that we love from Chicago called Criminal Kids. That's like super sick rock and roll punk. We're actually taking them out to the East Coast. They'll be out in Boston with us in a few weeks. And there's a lot of good bands. Like again, we've been around for almost going on 24 years now. So like, there's been so many good ones over the years. A lot of them we miss. We're just like, man, like, you remember when we used to play with so-and-so and they're no longer bands anymore. But we'll do shows with like, we're good friends with like Smoking Popes, so they're kind of, Chicago legends and things like that.
Our homies are the Arrivals. They randomly do shows again still. Phenomenal band.
The Crombies, another band. We do shows with them a lot. But I'm trying to think there's a lot of good bands in Chicago.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I love it. Like it's been, like I said, so like I'm a huge homer, right? So I'm big on like New England music all in all, and like from Maine all the way down to Connecticut, and so like, but like Chicago is like my second home for music. Like so many bands, and like I said, it started with like listening to you guys and the Tossers, and the funny thing about that is like, because you're like, I discovered you both at the same time, so like to me it was like you guys are like you guys were like right here, like in cohorts, you know what I mean? So to hear like you guys like, oh yeah, we were bad and we liked this band, but like to me, I loved you guys and I thought it was great. I was always like, oh, I wish I could like see them, and then like my buddies would go to like the Wreck the Halls shows and you guys would play every other year or something like that there, and I was like, God damn it, I'm always missing that. I bought a ticket. I finally bought a ticket to one year and like it got snowed out. I'm like, it's just not meant to be. So maybe then when you guys come back around, I'm gonna have to try to get over there. And,
No, definitely.
I was just bringing that up. Like the Street Dogs, Boston, home. They were really, as far as our international, like being exposed to a lot of international crowd. We were touring for years before this actually happened, but. They were really influential with us in helping us out. So we, when it comes to like the Boston community, like I'll be honest with you, the first time we went to Boston, first few times we went to Boston, we did not, we were not welcomed very quickly. I think because there was just kind of this, the band with bagpipes, the Murphys, we already have the Murphys, back off. We actually, the first time we ever played in Boston was in Harvard Square. Or was it Camden over there? Or what's that area?
Yeah, it's in Camden.
Cambridge?
Yeah, we had Cambridge. Yeah,
Cambridge. Yeah. What am I saying?
And we set up. One of the locals there who was a fan got a permit, and we set up a tent right in the entryway to the subway, I guess, or the train. And we played a total of 2 songs, and then the cops came in and shut us down. And then we had to leave, and it was like, really like, okay. And then we played another show, and it was just
we sold a lot of merch for 2 shows.
Yeah.
We probably sold like $400 worth of merch with just 2 songs. So that was cool.
Yeah,
but
it was good.
The actual punk community at the time, we didn't know really many people there. And I remember we drove like 7 hours out of the way, and the Gobshites guys threw us on a show. But that was the only show we've ever got turned off in mid-song. They came up to us when we were playing, like we were like 4 songs in, and then the guy came up and he's like, "Hey, if you play another song, the last band can't play. You have to stop." And we were like, "What?" and then so for a long time we didn't return to Boston. And then I think the Street Dogs, they're the ones who were like, "Hey, we're going to bring you back. We're going to do a proper show." And then it just went off from there. And every single time we went back to New England, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then obviously playing a lot of, we also did some, we did Ska's Dead tour, played with a lot of ska bands. We played at, out in Foxborough, outside of this New England Stadium or the Patriots Stadium. They had a club out there. We played with like Big D out there. And I don't know, there's a lot of ska bands we played out there.
That was the tour we were on. Yeah.
Mm.
There's a lot of good stuff. I mean, but then later on, more recent years, I mean, we became good friends with Mickey Rigshaw, which is, Mike from the Rum Jacks and stuff. And so it was just neat to see a growth happen. Eventually it opened up. I was always a big fan, and I think they're from your area. The Blue Bloods was one of my favorites.
Yeah. I was a huge. I loved the Blue Bloods. Yeah.
Yeah, they were that album with the Kennedys on the front of it. I can't remember the name of it, but it was so good.
It was killer.
I picked it up on one of my first East Coast tours, and I was like, "This is the most testosterone sounding band I've ever heard of." Like, this is just all that is man. Like, this is just like, and we want to punch the wall, and and it was just like, this is the toughest thing I've ever heard. And so I remember getting really into them, but yeah, I mean, it was good. Those early days, we'd go and hang out there, and it was good. It's been great ever since. It's not, it's just kind of funny. Those early years when you're sleeping in Walmart parking lots and trying to get around making a name for yourself, it takes a little while to break in and start to build relationships,
Now, so you guys, you were coming up like during when the internet was kind of like getting big with music and stuff like that. And did the internet help or no? Like, was it like to get your name out there? It was before streaming, like, really, right? So we had Pandora, like I said, when I discovered you guys, but like nowadays with the way streaming works, it's like you can get discovered or you can be forgotten forever, right? So like,
yeah,
did the internet buzz kind of help at all?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, why not? It probably did. But our use of the internet has always lacked, and our understanding of how those things work and the people that we've worked with, and we have not been the best at honing that in, just because we were so used to the motto, especially today, like especially today of all days or whatever times in music, we were very much you tour your ass off to get somewhere and to be a band. And now today it's almost the exact opposite. Like you don't tour because you're showing yourself too much almost, it's also, so we were more like workhorses. Sometimes we were doing 200 and I think 230 shows a year, and we were just constantly touring.
That's incredible.
It was right when things were changing in the whole industry, and we didn't understand it. To this day, we still barely understand it, and we kind of do it because we love it, and we're still figuring it out. So
when we started, we were touring with maps, and then we upgraded to a TomTom, and then in 2007, I think I bought my first iPhone.
Yeah,
and like it just, we started off with Zanga, went to mp3.com, then to MySpace, then to Facebook, now at Facebook. Like it's just this journey of learning a new program every 5 years because everybody's on to something else. And we're just like, listen, we're trying to write records. We're trying to tour our butts off. We're a bunch of Southside guys. Like the only way for us to be able to travel and get out of our area of the city is to go and play shows. And we have to do that to keep this thing rolling. So it was work your butt off and tour your butt off and, play really bad places for a long time. I mean, it's still, you're just kind of like, man, like I think back to some of the spots we've played over the years and you're just like, man, I can't believe some of those places are still in existence and I'm surprised, like it was old back then, but
yeah. And I've never been like one for technology. Like I do this podcast thing. Tobin, I was telling you when we first signed on, like I still don't know what I'm doing half the time with all this, like with the audio shit. You know what I mean? My goal is to make it as simple as possible for myself. So I do everything in my power for that. And like social media and stuff, like I hate it. I don't like it. I have a producer for the podcast and they help me with the majority of the social media because like, I remember I just stopped doing it because I just couldn't stand social media. And the internet's very unforgiving. Like if you walk away for a minute, you're forgotten forever. So I had to basically for 2 months or 3 months that I didn't go on social media, I had to like build everything back up. Right. So I totally understand like that whole logic. And again, you guys are busy. Like you're not, you aren't promoters, you're musicians. Right. So it's tough.
I will throw this out there though. And I think how you can weigh in on it because of doing that. I think our fans are a little bit less an inch deep and a mile wide. They're way deeper with us, and because they have real interactions with us because of the time spent with them. So like I think we were given a chance that maybe newer bands aren't given because we did live during a season when it was like the last era of really touring constantly and getting out there and grinding it out, and so because of that, we're a band that has a lot of fans that raise their kids on us now. We weren't just a flash in the pan, investment from one day that they ran across us online only. So I think, Kyle, I mean, you could throw your 2 cents on that, but that's what I've seen. And we even saw that with other bands at the time. Was like bands would go on these massive tours because they were from the right city with the right bands that would take them out. And their fans were good. There was a lot of them, but they weren't going to follow them through the good times and the bad because they didn't have the relational capital built,
Yeah. So 24 years, like 24 years, we're going to say, right? 24 years you guys have been. Was this your first band? Was this the first band?
Yeah.
No shit. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Holy cow! Now you both have been in and have side projects too, right? On the that you do. Does that help with like the longevity of the main band having projects on the side?
For me, yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, like musical tastes change throughout your years, and I was a huge OA fan since I was pretty young, and so Flatfoot was never really an oi band. So hanging out with homies in the city that I grew up with, it was a good outlet for me playing punk hardcore, oi, like an oi project to where it wasn't so, it was super easy to jump on shows and write and just have a kind of like a more chill out, approach to things. So it was a nice approach for me to like, it was an escape, from playing quote unquote more, professional music, I guess you could say, but Flatfoot's always just been it's been an awesome outlet in general though, but for sure. But the side projects are always fun because you're not limited to a certain sound, you can do it more raw, you can do it more, whatever, play certain shows that you maybe never could play with Flatfoot, just because it wouldn't work out. But yeah, no, side projects have always been fun, and just plus it's always fun to change it up and play with different people. Obviously us three brothers who started the band with our buddy Josh, It was phenomenal, like family experience to tour the world with my brothers.
That's awesome.
And sometimes our pops would come on the road with us for many years, so that was awesome. But because we were so young. But yeah, obviously it's cool to like tour a little bit and see the country with different dudes, just change it up, change the scenery. So
yeah, we also I think Kyle's always been I would say he's like been the edge of the band when it comes to a lot of us collect vinyl. He's probably the most into vinyl collection out of all of us. He's the one that keeps up on a lot of the more oi and hardcore and punk rock stuff, and just has a good understanding of what is cool in the scene and what's going on. And all of us keep up with it at various levels in our own areas. I'm way more into folk and cultural music and things like that. I love punk. I mean, punk's a part of all of our lives, but when it comes to the different seasonings that we add, stepping into your side project is an opportunity for you to dive a little bit more into this particular thing that influences you. Like lyrics are really important to me. So what an artist says, if you're like John Prine from Chicago, is probably one of my favorite folk artists of all time. And because he's just a weird writer, he writes really strange. Like he's very outside the box in how he puts stuff together. And so taking that inspiration and bringing it into a punk rock world is kind of like saying, hey, I get to introduce the punk community to something they probably would never touch, unless it was their dad that introduced them to them back in the 70s. You know what I mean? And so we get to kind of bring in a little bit of this outside world of, it just helps season what we do in Flatfoot by being able to express ourselves in different ways.
Nice. Kyle, so are you a gearhead when it comes to record players and stuff like that?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't know. I've kind of gone back and forth. I've had good. You talk about amplifiers and turntables and stuff like that. Yeah, a little bit, but I've always come down to is the juice versus the squeeze when it comes to all of my favorite music. And half the time I realize it really spending that couple $100 extra on a Marantz, it really make my, really, really shitty hardcore record sound better. And it really doesn't. And I'm actually
the way you're playing through it.
I have a solid Yamaha 70s Yamaha, and it's a CR 820. It's fine. It works. I traded in probably 10 vintage Pioneers that were busted and a Marantz that was busted for this one. So, because just from a trade guy that, but yeah, nowadays I have I literally have a stereo set up in 3 parts of my house, and I have turntables at all different parts.
Oh, wow.
And it's very confusing which records I put in which area of my house or garage.
Yeah.
So I have to go. I almost buy 3 copies of every record so I can just not have to think about it, which is a terrible ideology when it comes to collecting records.
So I remember records when I was a little kid. I'm 43, so I remember my first record was Michael Jackson's Thriller. Nice. But I got out of cassettes, and then there were cassettes, and then CDs, and then digital. Yeah. But I got back into record collecting in I got into record collecting, I should say, in 2017, 2016. And it's stupid now. Yeah. I blame Mark Lind from the Ducky Boys because he had a subscription service for a vinyl record, and I joined that, and all of a sudden I need the test press. I have test pressings behind me. I've got the records right there, and I'm just I'm a fucking fiend now, and I hate it. This year I said I'm going to start tracking everything I buy, but month by month. And January I was I probably bought 3 records, and I bought 10. I'm all right, this is so it's helping me slow down a little bit too, Yeah,
Discogs really helps you with what you have, because so many times too when you get to a point you're I don't know if I have that record, and then you realize you have 4 copies, and you get home and you're well, all right. And then Discogs came out, and then I got turned on to Discogs. They've been around for a long time, but I got turned on to Discogs. I actually don't know what year that was. It was probably 2017, I think I started my count. It was something like that. And I was sweet, now I can really track what I have. I can buy more. I can sell more. I could figure that all out. And then eventually you start creating a community of friends that are all in the scene. Like one of my best friends, he only got into record collecting 5 years ago, but he literally is already pound for pound pretty much matched my collection. And I was like, you have been going at it.
Well, he also doesn't have a wife and kids, and like he's just sitting at home going, what am I going to invest in right now?
Yeah. And I mean, and that's the beautiful thing about records too, is that they really do. If it's good music, it'll always hold its value. You can buy it for $20 and that record, you can sell it. It's crappy now or whatever. Like you can damage it and it'll still probably, if it's a good record and limited pressing, you can still sell it for $80, $100. You never know. Yeah. So it's not like a car where you buy it and you take off the lot and instantly devalues itself by 70%, So
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, music's great. I mean, obviously I can't, throughout the day, I'm always listening to records in my house, probably 5 times a day. It's pretty ridiculous. My wife has a lot of patience.
So that's something I kind of talk about too a little bit now. Cause like to listen to a full album, like it's nowadays it's very single serving. Right. And it gets to the point where like, now with like TikTok, you're not even listening to a full song. People know like the chorus of a song or this one part of a song, and that's it. Like, but like I'm still like an album. Like I want to hear a full album. I want to sit down. I want to read the lyric sheets. I want to do like but I'm older too, so I guess that's like because like I couldn't understand. I was seeing it a lot with hip hop. Like I was like. There was a few, like a couple years ago, there was a couple hip hop artists. I'm like, I really like them. How come they only have singles? And then all of a sudden they drop like a 20 track album and like those 6 singles are on there. You know what I mean? So it makes a little more sense, I guess. But the way algorithms work, I've talked to people about that on here and like, like how things go. And like, I don't know. I'm an album guy, but like it's good when you can write a song that can either be like a standalone or part of like an overall thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like the perfect song for me. Cause that means it could be a single and it's part of this album that may not be a concept album, but it has an overarching like feel and vibe to it. I will say, Tobin, you said that lyrics are very important to you. Like I've always loved the storytelling in Flatfoot 56's lyrics. So like, what's the process? Like, do you have lyrics before you guys lay down music, or do you hear music first? Like, this is my question to everybody: is how do you write a song? And no one's ever like, there's never 2 answers that are the same. So,
yeah, it used to be a lot more like I'd sit at home with my guitar, write most of it, and then we'd come in and piece together all the parts as a band. Now, the process for music is way more in depth with the guys. And then I just kind of got to the point where I was like, hey man, I'm really tired of creating an entire song just to have it ripped apart. So I'm going to get together with you guys. We're going to create together and then I'll put lyrics to it later on. There will be times where like a lyric idea comes in, like again, we're dads now and time is not what it used to be for us. So I'm finding myself like just jotting down a few words here and there and then building off the concept as time goes on. Sometimes songs will write themselves though. A lot of times, and I was just doing a writing session with our mandolin player. So what I found is helpful for me. Our bagpiper came back to the band 2 years ago. He had a 10-year hiatus where he was out. He'd gotten married and had a lot of life stuff that happened. And then, so he kind of came back and rejoined, which is great to have him back. 3 original, the 4 are in the band now again. And so I found out and I realized that when we're just hanging out with our acoustic instruments or not full blast, and he's just tinkling around on the mandolin, I'll just hear like a snippet of something and be like, ooh, what you just did there, do this and then add this to it, and we'll kind of come up with a riff off of that, and then we kind of build from there. And then I usually just, when we're jamming stuff out, I mumble in different melodies. And then if I hear a word in the mumbling, I'll take that word and then follow it and pull on it a little bit and see if it brings anything out to a good concept or whatever. Other times it'll just be like, I want to write a song about this. Here we go. and you got to find your places to write too. So like I used to be a substitute teacher. I'm a full-time teacher now. And when I was on break at school as a substitute, I just go to a room and sit there with my headphones in and just write lyrics to riffs that were recorded on my phone, And so as far as lyrics are concerned, that's where it goes. As far as music is concerned, we got 5 guys that are bringing their talents to the table. And I think the biggest thing with that is learning how to submit to each other and honor each other's perspective. And I think for years, we didn't do that well. I didn't do that well. And I didn't realize that I might have been shutting down really amazing ideas in my fellow bandmates. So you kind of really learn to like, hey, they're in this band. They're professionals. They might be bringing something to the table here that could just completely break us into a new world. I need to not be as, I need to be more open to being inspired by what these guys are being inspired by. And I think a big part of that is trusting each other's taste. If you got a guy in the band who's like, I'm a big fan of the Kings of Leon, I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work with Flatfoot, that inspiration. But if they're, it's like, I'm not my jam, Sex is on Fire, I don't think is going to be something that Flatfoot is really, like that's just that kind of world. But nothing against if you like it, but it's not our deal. But now I think with the lineup that we have, they're all just top notch. They all have good taste and they all just know everybody knows what they want and what they want to work towards, and it meshes well together. It's in the same world,
Mm-hmm.
You can be pulled in too many directions. I think in our early years we were, and I think honing it in a specific way and then letting other genres maybe spice up what you're doing is helpful. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. There's never a wrong answer. It blows my mind because so I write. I'm a storyteller. I write, but I've attempted songs and I'm like, I don't have it. I don't have that thing that does it for me. You know what I mean? Like I could probably do a treatment. That's probably the best I could do for a song is to get an idea out there. Cause but it's tough. And I feel like at this point, if I ever do figure out how to write a song, then the podcast has to end. Cause I ask everybody that. So, Kyle, what about for you? Did you, with your writing process?
My writing process is very. I can write music, but I am very much more of that opinionated asshole with very little answer to my opinion. I have ideas for sure. I have my other bands. I did write a lot, and it was good, but it's definitely, I'm not a big lyric person at all. So that's why being with my brother is a huge asset and fun, because it's like, I don't like to think about lyrics. I don't really read. I read lyrics to bands I like, but I'm mostly about the beat and the order of the songs and the feel, So that's kind of like where I really get into it, is like basically the hooks, the melodies, and the chord structures, and how if it's just a standard 4 square like riffs, it's got to have some sort of minors, and it's got to be interesting enough to where it can't just be boring to play, because obviously we're all taking time out of our day and emphasizing we don't want to write anything that's like just, we don't like mailing in anything, I don't like mailing in anything, I just don't. If I can't play that song live and I don't have fun playing that song live, then why would I want to waste and keep on playing it until we record it? And then like every single song has to have something to offer. And if it doesn't, sometimes, it's obviously, I always like the mentality of like, I want to love every single song on this record that we put out,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that everyone else in the band should like it as well. Like we should all be in love with every single song, not just one person's like, this is their song. This is their song. I think there's possible ways of doing that. And I think just the process of keep on writing and getting things, cycled through and, hashed out is key. So, but that's also why we never put out records we don't put out records every year.
Right.
So it's kind of like a bane of our existence. I feel like a lot of the stuff we have put out has been pretty quality, and I stand by it. since Knuckles Up, but it's definitely not a lot of records if you in the grand scheme of things of how long we've been a band. So we've definitely taken our time with how we write and the process and the whole album aspect. So
it's also like we live in a world full of like unrelational process and just regurgitating the same old crap over and over again and having no sustenance to anything. So I'd like to think, maybe I'm completely naive in this thought, but like, if it's not you being authentically you, how punk rock is it going to possibly be? Not that that's our ultimate goal is to be punk rock, but like, what are we really doing here? That it's not, we're wasting our time. We're just creating more trash for mass consumption. And is that the point of this? Well, then why am I doing this? I'll go work and actually, take care of my family better, by, working all the time. And it's just like, it has to be valued. And that's why guys like Kyle are so important to the band, because I have a tendency to fall in love with a song when we write it and then listen to it the next day and be like, I don't like this. Like, it just doesn't hold. And that's super good. But Kyle can kind of hear that right off the bat, or he can see like a design, like imagery, like the design work that you do. I can't tell you how many bands that I absolutely adore that I'm like, let me spend the money and let me design a cool t-shirt for you that I'll wear because your music's amazing, but your imagery's trash. Like, and it's just, it would be really nice to be able to like support you guys, but not completely hate what I'm wearing on my t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, that's like the biggest thing. And everyone's got their own style, but you can just definitely tell some bands don't give a crap about what market, like not marketing, but like their branding, their branding looks, it's just like, man, it'd be really nice to like love every part of you, your music and what you present, like you're welcoming people into an experience with you to identify with the music you're creating, not just enjoy it. It's about welcoming people into a culture that you build. Music's culture. It creates a culture around it. So if you're just offering an experience of listening only, that's fine, but know what you are. You're just providing entertainment. If you're providing an absolute like culture to come with you of like style and, all that kind of stuff, you're offering people a lot more, and people love that. They want to be a part of something. They want to have a real authentic relationship, with the music, with what they see, and it's just one of those things. Maybe I'm wrong about that. That's just kind of the full package.
I think you're right. I think it goes for anything you want to do, really. Like, you got to build that brand, right? You got to, and it's like being like the term punk rock, like it's not just an aesthetic. Like, it's not just like, spiked hair and like oi music, or you know what I mean? Like it's just like being different, right? It's about doing your own thing, like you're saying, being as authentic as you can be. And if it's different than like the norm, then whatever. Like you still love doing that. You know what I mean? Like I like wear flannels and shit and like plaid shirts. Like I go to a show and people are like, "Who's this dad?" You know what I mean? And I'm like, "No, I'm just here for the music." You know what I mean? Like it's not about like. It's not about the aesthetic. It's that when you get into that part of it, it's almost like a gatekeeping thing, right? There's like these people who are just like, you don't look the part, so you don't belong here, or you don't sound the part. I always use the Minutemen as the perfect example of like what being punk rock is, because they were there during the '80s hardcore, and they were playing this like almost like bluegrass or country western stuff along with what they were doing, So like it's cool. It's great to be authentic, and I think that's what makes it. That's what makes you what you are.
Yeah, and it has longevity too. So one of the things I always marvel at is the age of punk bands within the punk scene. I mean, we're 24 years into this, and we're young bucks compared to like some of these bands. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we got bands that one of my favorite bands of all time is Coxbar. 50 years. You know what I mean? Like, you have 50 years. That's about as, and their newest member has been in the band for, at the time when they talked to us, at their 40th year anniversary, he had been in the band for 17 years. So like, we're young comparatively to all these bands, and the reason they stick around is because they're able to be themselves, and they don't have to play a part. They can authentically be accepted in their journey and in their process, hopefully. Now, obviously, there's limits to that, and people, want to put everybody in a box. But I think in a culture like with punk rock music, it allows a general respect for, hopefully, a general respect for who people are. And as long as you're just not hating on people and disrespectful to everybody, and you know what I mean, like within the scene, so people like that stuff too.
Kyle, you had said like it doesn't, it takes you guys a while to put out an album, right? Because like you're making sure it's what you want, right? You're not just mass producing song after song. So the last thing you guys put out was the split with the Rumjacks, right?
Yeah, it was. I think Kyle stalled there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was the last one.
So I want to say those three songs are like solid rock and roll songs. Like I was like it's definitely like this is what I like about music, right? What I like about a band, like it doesn't have to be replicated from stuff in the past. You can kind of change things and move things along. Like it is very much like I absolutely enjoyed, like for me, and like I said, I like whole albums, right? But those three songs were so full for me. Like I was like, this is awesome. Like, is this something we're gonna see a little more of, or was this because like, you wanted to be a little bit different with the split? Like, also, this is the first time you guys did a split. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, this is the first one. And to be honest, man, those songs didn't even go through the gauntlet like our other stuff does. That split was recorded in Cleveland with this producer guy that wanted to work with us, and he did some pretty big acts. And it was like we had the music already, and it wasn't even planned to be on a split. It was supposed to be just a demo of some sort. And then the split idea came along after, right, Toby?
No, yeah. So we had these songs in the can. We were having a hard,
Yeah,
we were having a hard time.
I want to make sure I had the timing right with it all, but
yeah. No, we were recorded with a guy that he had put out like some major, like he had some, platinum records. Like he did some really huge records. His name was Jim Wart, and he had done stuff with way outside of our world. Like I think he worked with like Hoopa and Fiona Apple and Brian Setzer's Orchestra were three of the bands that he had done records for. And it's like really not our world at all, but he hit us up and was like, hey, I'd like to produce some stuff for you guys. And we're like, let's try it. Let's go and do it. And so we had these songs, and we recorded those. I want to say we recorded those in February of 2020. And then COVID hit. No, wait a second. When did the split come out? Was it after COVID? Can't even remember what we were doing.
The split, I think it came out in 2022.
2022. Okay. Yeah. So we had those songs recorded for about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And the Rumjacks had hit us up because Mikey, their new main singer, was like, hey, I grew up listening to you guys. I want to do a split with you guys at the Rumjacks. It's kind of one of my requirements for playing, with the Rumjacks. And I really want to do a split with you guys. And, at the time, the Rumjacks weren't coming to the States a whole lot. So we were like, hey, come to the States. We'll tour together. It'll be great. We ended up doing that tour. It was awesome until Flatfoot got COVID midway through it. And we had to end it. We were like, no, we've been waiting for this to happen forever. And it just, so the songs turned out really good because there was a lot of process with them. The next album is going to be a lot more like, I think it's in the same vein of what you hear in that. We have a new guitar player that is bringing some amazing stuff to the table. He was a main singer of his own band called Lights Over Bridgeport. And we had him join us about, was it a year and a half ago now? And he's been doing it with the writing process with us. It's been really fun to work with him. And then just finding our balance with each other in the seasons that we're in has been really fun. So I'm pretty optimistic. We're recording the album with the same guy that engineered our album Toil. And Justin Yates, he's a wonderful, wonderful guy, and really he's killing it. So there's some good stuff coming out. I think we'll have like a release before the new album comes out, though, of like 1 or 2 songs.
Mm-hmm.
Did a cover of Electric Avenue of all songs of our own version of
That's
it.
awesome. I'm great. Now I'm going to be like anxiously awaiting that song. I can't.
It sounds pretty awesome. I think Kyle sings it, and it's sick. It's super good. So,
yeah, I can't wait to hear what that sounds like.
I'm hoping that actually that song is out before that whole tour. We'll at least have a single on streaming sites, so that would be out before our tour. I mean, it's already done. We just got to think about what kind of weird, cool art we want to do for a single weird streaming release as of now. So,
mm-hmm. So all right, so you guys are starting your tour end of June, I think. Is that what I was reading?
Yeah,
and you're gonna hit. Is it the whole U.S. or just you kind of go to the east? You're going east this time? Or?
No, we're only going to the we're doing the Midwest up through we're going up to Portland, Maine, and we're going to be up at Geno's, and
that's such an awesome club.
Historically our first time ever playing Portland, Maine, and Maine in general. It's actually we played every single state except for Maine and Alaska.
We haven't been to Alaska, yeah.
Yeah, so those are the last 2 states we've never played. So we're excited to get out there and play them. So.
Geno's is a treasure. I was just there a couple months, like 2 months ago, to see the Drowns play. They're awesome.
That's a good band right there. The Drowns. Those dudes are awesome.
Oh yeah, they're sweethearts too. They're very like they're music nerds through and through, and they're I love what they do.
If you ever get a chance, this is just a thing to do. Next time you see them, walk up to Jake, their drummer, and ask him to talk to you about roller coasters. He can give you the statistics on any roller coaster there is in America specifically. He might even be able to world. He can tell you how fast they go, what their average speed is, their height, everything.
That's
it's the most amazing thing.
The designer.
He's incredible. We met him when he was in Time Again back in the day. We were on tour with them and the Street Dogs, and he's been a good buddy ever since. Wonderful human being.
He really is. He really is. And Rev and Andy, they're both sweethearts too.
Rev is awesome. Yeah.
Dude, whenever Rev's taught me about Boston bands that I never even heard of. Like, he's just an encyclopedia of music too. So yeah, those guys are great. But yeah, so Geno's is an awesome rock club. You guys are playing the Middle East too in Cambridge.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just stopped at Portland, Maine.
No, that's all right.
We'll be going up through Portland, Maine, coming down, doing our Middle East show, doing upstairs. Hopefully sell that out quick, and then head down to New York, and then we're playing Camp Pennsylvania in Pennsylvania, and then back to regular life. We have to get back. So like our longer tours these days are rougher and harder to pull off. So we're gonna have to get back on that Saturday. So it's only like a 2.5 week tour. So
cool. Summertime will be in the summertime. Be nice and warm.
Yeah. I think it's June 26th to July 6th. I think that's when we're doing it.
Cool. Awesome.
So.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. All right. Real quick, is there, I know you guys both do side projects. Is there anything right now you want to plug for your side projects that you got going on, or?
Oh man. What do you want to plug, Tob?
Well, what I've been doing with my side project is, my drummer and we've been doing song commissions lately. So I have like 20 song commission songs in the bag for people that commission them. And so we're going to eventually hit them up and say, hey, for the ones that we really think would be solid, and say, hey, we want to put a record out of all just your guys' stories. Are you cool with us doing that? And then kind of revisit them again and put them up. But we're not in the place of recording anything. Like I said, I'm a full-time high school teacher, so that's a pretty big thing during the course of the year. And then, but yeah, just Kyle. I think Kyle's band Force of Ruta has been doing tons of stuff. It's been really cool to watch them. He's flying all over the place, playing with those guys, doing a bunch of stuff for them. So,
what's the name?
I think that's probably
what's the name of that one?
Active.
Yeah, it's called brute force in Spanish. It's like it's an oi band. But yeah, it was just a bunch of dudes that got together that wanted to start Oi music in Spanish because we're all of us mostly were in Spanish speaking neighborhoods currently and just in general. And I was like, hey, if we do this, let's not sing in English. Let's do it in Spanish. I'm not a Spanish speaker. But I was like, you know what, this will be a great excuse for me to go tour Mexico and South America. So I was like, any excuse to go down to those regions where I haven't been and play to people that are super passionate and fun and so we started doing that. I don't know that band. I think 2000. I'm terrible. One last year called Contra, and yeah, it's been a fun process. We just do mostly flyouts. We do a lot of flyouts. We do a lot of like we don't really tour so much. We just kind of just play those kind of like very niche like shows throughout the country, like those real diehard like kind of Oi fans that throw weekenders. They usually fly us out for that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's a blast. It's a good, definitely weekend getaway, playing music and seeing friends from all over the world. But yeah, I don't know. Check it out though. It's pretty intense, fun. A little bit more. I always say we're a punk band, but it's definitely the realm of Oi, but a lot more, not as simple riffs. There's a lot that goes into it. It's a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah.
So
cool.
But yeah, that's fun. I've been doing that a lot, and but we're definitely gearing up for Flatfoot season. We just released that record with Forza, and then we're gonna just do random shows, and then Flatfoot's right now. So that's basically all that's going on right now in our. I've been booking actually a lot of shows in Chicago too for different friends and trying to step up and helping out, and it's taking up way too much time. So
we do have a
music front. Yeah.
We do have a kind of uncompleted. Well, it's going to happen. It actually hasn't been announced yet, but I'll throw it out here. We're going down to Atlanta in September, last weekend. Labor Day weekend. We'll be down in Atlanta for the Resurrection of Beer Olympics, which is an Oi festival, punk festival that happened years ago, and they're kind of bringing it back. So we'll be playing down there with some really great bands, a lot of good old school names, and they'll be announcing that soon. So we'll be heading down there and doing some stuff like that too. So we do a lot of Scottish festivals too. Sometimes it's kind of another side that we'll go to, and we'll go play Highland Games as well. I think we're doing one of those that weekend too. So
awesome. Where can people find you guys on the internet? Where, like, social media is it Flatfoot 56 at Instagram and all that stuff is?
Yeah, it's all there. I mean, basically, just Flatfoot 56 is kind of pretty easy to search.
Yep.
My side project 610, not so much. It's a hard one to. Numbers don't work real well, but Flatfoot 56 does come up when you search for it. So it's but yeah, like Instagram, we're on most of our activities, Instagram, Facebook, and our website. We didn't get into the TikTok thing. It's too much acting for my liking. And I think that's it. Our Spotify account is pretty active. You can see shows on there as well, and just keeping track of us. We have a really active supporters club called the Alley Mob that we do barbecues every summer. We go play whirly ball every winter, and we do rather get-togethers. I don't know if you know what whirly ball is. It's a specialized court game that we kind of love doing. So it's I think it's only in Chicago and Colorado, and there's only a few courts around the country. But yeah, that group has been really good for our lifeblood as a band. Like, it's a way for us to get our friends and community that are real committed to get connected to each other. So we've had people meet each other and have babies. We've had like multiple neat relationships built through this community of people. We started it up again in 2018.
That's awesome.
And it's been a really neat, people helping each other out, raising money for people who are in trouble. And it was really a key for a lot of people during COVID. We were helping a lot of people out in the community with that. So it's neat to be able to have that core of people that just are are kind of people that we can pull together and say, hey, you guys are fans, but you guys are you're really about this. And so let's do some stuff together. It'll be fun.
That's awesome. That's something I always talk about too, like the difference between a scene and a community, and how communities last, and like they're there for each other all the time, no matter what. And that's awesome that you guys have something like that, like, for the fans of your music that kind of get together and, being able to do stuff like that. It's awesome. You guys are great, man. You guys are awesome. Real quick, I just want to ask, what are the 3 albums each of you are listening to right now? What are you listening to right now?
You go, Tom.
Oh boy. Albums I'm listening to. The new Hives record is probably constant. Like, to me, in my opinion, there's no better live band that I've ever seen than that band. They're incredible. So the new Hives record is really good. A band called Homefront. I
love Homefront. Yeah. They were in my top like 5 last year, new albums last year.
And then let's see here. What else am I listening to? Let me think about that last one. You go, Kyle. Let me. My brain.
One of the rare occasions. I mean, I'm a massive. I love Celtic music. I really do. I mean, growing up listening to punk and oi, I definitely have a soft spot for Celtic music, and there's not many that come around that are very genuine and just spark your love like the Pogues did. And the Mary Wallopers, the new band from Ireland, is definitely carrying the torch, and their new record, especially every record they put out so far, has been absolutely amazing. And with that band, I jam on a very, 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 almost every other day. And then an old soul guy, Lee Fields. You guys still with me? I don't know if you're jamming or not.
I'm here. Yeah.
All right, cool. This Lee Fields, one of my favorite soul artists. He has an album called Sentimental Fool that I never listened to until this year, and it came out in 2022, I want to say, but somehow it escaped me. I never got to hear it, and I've been listening to it constantly. Third record, there's a split. Our friends from this French oi band called Alterazia, they did a split with our friends Concrete Elite from Texas. I've been listening to that record a lot. It's a really cool 6-song split, and those 3 records I've been listening to a lot in the last month. So
nice.
Yeah. The third record for me, probably some Betson Army stuff from Montreal.
Awesome.
Definitely good stuff, and I enjoy. There's something about when you sing in French and you sing tough oi. It's I like it. So I'll just put it on, and it'll just constantly like feel revved up. This is just super good. Kyle threw a show for them. It was a DIY show in Chicago a few months back, and it was a lot of fun. It's a really good experience. So
that's awesome. Tobin, Kyle, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Again, I've been following you guys for a while. I appreciate your music. I appreciate what you guys are doing out there. And I hope to catch you when you guys are on tour.
Yeah, Trev, thank you so much for having us. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for what you do, buddy.
Also, if you ever want to come back, you got a new album coming out. Come on back. We'll talk about it,
No, definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
And, for Boston or whatever, if you come out to Boston or Portland, make sure to let me know. I'll throw you on the guest list and all that kind of stuff. It'd be cool to meet you face to face. So if you're able to come out, I think they're weekdays, but yeah.
My schedule works that way. Sometimes I have weekdays off, so I'll take a look and I'll make sure it happens. So, but yeah.
Cool.
Sure.
Definitely let me know. So
cool. All right, and that's the show. I want to thank Tobin and Kyle again for being today's guests on the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you'll have a link to Flatfoot 56 website, and also a link to Tobin's side project and Kyle's side project. So make sure you check those out too. These guys, they've been doing this for so long. Like whatever project they're going to work on is going to be good. And just take my word for it. Go listen to it. I want to thank Chris Chavez for being producer of the Struggling Artist Podcast. I want to thank State Line Records for being sponsors of the podcast. And I want to thank the band Loser Circle for allowing us to use their song Great Illusion of Time off of their album took long enough. I want to thank everybody over at Patreon supporting us over there. If you want to see what's going on over there, all the it's like a whole nother podcast network we have going on over there. 3 or 4 shows that are like exclusive to Patreon only. Go check them out. How does that go? Patreon.com/podcast TSA. There's always a link too in our link tree. And on our website, thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. Or if you really needed a link, you could always text us at the Struggling Artist Hotline. That phone number is 774-570-1552. If you want a link, we'll text you back. Otherwise, we probably won't text you back. You can leave us a voicemail too. I'll play it on the show, I promise. I want to thank everybody who listens to the podcast, who reaches out. Okay, let me tell you a quick story real fast here. Someone reached out to us on the messenger for Facebook for the podcast. His name is Bob. I'm not going to reveal Bob's last name for privacy reasons. And he's the one that set up this episode. He likes the podcast and he knows the Flatfoot 56 fellas and see what happens when you just reach out, and he said a lot of kind things about the podcast too. So I want to thank Bob for reaching out and for listening and for digging what we're doing. All right, it's time for me to get out of here and play you all a song. Sorry, I had another like Matrix hiccup there. This is from Flatfoot 56. It is off of the split they did with the Rumjacks, and the song is called Sorry. Until next week, take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you then.
Justice wheel, that's really going nowhere. You talk for miles and miles, you can't define me. Sky's falling everywhere you go, point the finger, rip you apart. Why can't you just fall in line, man? Well, come on now, son, you're breaking my heart. I've got a perfect plan to make the world just like me. No need to compromise, just follow blindly. So tell me once again, where do we find our place when we're yelling out of breath in this crowded space? How can I say I'm sorry? I'm sorry. Oh, it's all that you gotta hate the world and hate yourself. It's a pill that's swallowed whole. Come on, man, well, it's good for your health. Then we all just stop a sec and see that you are just like me. I'll sing this to my grave and I'll love you blindly. So tell me once again, where do we find our place when we're yelling out of breath in these crowded spaces? How can I say I'm sorry? So tell me once again,